Morning, Ross.
Good morning.
What's going on?
Not too bad.
Are you ready for action, or what's? When is this Motherwell, the much anticipated Motherwell debut, going to start for you?
Well, our next game is on the 18th of January, and I'm currently in isolation with COVID, so not a great start, I must say.
How do you feel?
I feel grand, just feel a bit tired, but then if I don't go to sleep, I get a burst of energy, so it's weird though.
And you have two young kids as well, so obviously as a young parent, the challenge is to restrict COVID to yourself as well.
Yeah, so thankfully they've all tested negative, so it's just my friends, they've tested positive, and a few lads off the team. But no, two lads that my friends that didn't test positive are the only two lads in the group that have the booster, so must be working.
There you go. So what's happened since you left Bohs?
Not much really. I've signed for Motherwell. I've enjoyed my time off. I've enjoyed my time at Bohs, but no, I came over on the 12th of December, I think, and I trained for a week with the lads, just to get to know the lads, and yeah, I enjoyed it. And now I came back on Sunday, the 2nd, and thought I was ready to go on Monday, but COVID struck, so.
Ross, in terms of possibilities of where you might have gone after Bohs, or maybe even staying at Bohs, can you talk us through those last few weeks and contract negotiations and the options that were on the table for you?
Yeah, look, the deal wanted to get done in summer, but unfortunately things didn't click and didn't go. I stayed to the end of the season, thankfully, and unfortunately we didn't win that, but we got Europe. But it was a great season, personally and collectively. Like, we made great memories and we had a good run in Europe, so that was unbelievable. But yeah, I sort of not had options, but I had interest from England and other places in Scotland, but they were more 23s and sometimes on the bench on first team, like more money, obviously. Like Motherwell's not a big budget, but I'm happy with the money I'm on, to be honest. It's paying bills and but I just took into account that I'm still only 20, so I'm a young lad, and it was 26, 27 maybe I'd be looking at money wise, but I'm looking just to progress my career. And yeah, thankfully Motherwell said I'd be in around the first team and I'll be a first team player, so I'm glad.
The extra 6 months you ended up spending at Bohs, do you feel a better player for those 6 months and playing regularly?
Oh yeah, 100%. Look, we were playing at a high level. People don't understand how intense and how good of a level the Irish League is. Like, but yeah, I felt like I just needed to play last year. Like I said at the start of the season, I was planning on going out on loan. Thankfully, I broke into the team, and I played regularly. Me and Georgie just had a good partnership. So yeah, I enjoyed my time at Bohs.
Yeah, when we get to the papers, plenty of chat about Georgie Kelly from Aidan Fitzmaurice in the Endo today in terms of where he might go, and some very interesting options mentioned. But Rory O'Connor, who's a Bohs fan, was on yesterday. He was so sad, obviously, to see all these Bohs players go, including you, Ross. But one of the main, I suppose, tenets of our chat was this influx of players from Ireland to the SPL. Why do you think this is happening? Is it to do with what happened with Jamie McGrath, his subsequent progression to the Irish team? Obviously, Liam Scales getting massive kudos at Celtic as well. What appeals to Irish players to go to the SPL?
Well, it's not the weather, anyways. I'm not sure. Like, obviously, I think Jamie was probably one of the first lads that came from the League of Ireland to the SPFL, and I think he's done well, and people could see his quality. So I think a lot more teams, not even just in Scotland and England as well, are starting to look to the League of Ireland because they realise the quality that is in the league now. And I think Brexit has helped as well with that, because obviously it'd be 18 to go. So the younger lads now are not going over 16 and then falling off when they're 21. They're going through the ranks in 17s and 19s back home, and then they're getting a chance in the men's senior team. So I think it's great for the League of Ireland as well, especially financially. But yeah, interested me. It was just playing first team and taking another step in the right direction. And so I don't know. Like, obviously, Johnny Kenny, there's talks of him signing for Celtic, and Darragh Burns was supposed to come over, but I don't know what's going on there. But yeah, for me, like obviously, I obviously knew Jamie McGrath playing from the fucking, excuse me, language, playing the senior Irish team, so that was also an interest. Like you would think St Mirren are a big club, but he's a regular in the Irish senior men's team, so as me as playing 21s, like that was obviously a push for me, and I knew that if I'm playing here regularly and playing well, that I could get the chance soon and might be able to do what Jay done.
Yeah, and the lad who's struggling to sleep with the shoulder injury, Ross, is just woken him up there again. But I think Ross is going to wake up a few people with his SPL forms next season. This was a really interesting thing, I thought, yesterday. Kenny Shields, a former Derry manager, was quoted as saying that he thinks some of the teams in the SPL play a style of football that actually isn't suiting, for example, the likes of Aaron McAniff at Hearts. Now, I would notice of late, just watching some games, the pitches wouldn't be great compared to maybe the summer football in Ireland. What are your preconceptions about the style of football going over there at the sort of lower half of the SPL, Ross?
Well, look, it's obviously not the biggest league in the world. Maybe take Celtic and Rangers out, but no, we've with the last Motherwell, like there's quality everywhere in the team, and like the standard is what I expected. To be fair, like I just came in with hopes, but the standard back home that we had, like it's high, like so. I'm not in deep water, and obviously Jamie McGrath could show that the talent in the league was there. So
you've mentioned that a couple of times, Ross, about the standard at home, and you know, you look at if for example, I've made this point for if Rovers play Derry next season, you'll have Jack Byrne, Dylan Watts, Danny Mandrew, Graham Burke against Patrick McElhenney, Will Patching, and you know, McElhenney, to name but three. The standard in the League of Ireland, from your perspective, having played under 21s and gone over to Scotland, you obviously have a high regard for it.
Yeah, look, all you have to do is look at our finish in the table, and then look how well we done in Europe against big teams. Like I didn't really take it and look at it until I left and realised like bet against top teams in Europe, and we beat top teams. Like we beat PAOK in the Aviva, like, you hear me? So like the talent back home, and it's great. Like you look at the senior men's team, you think how many players have come from the League of Ireland, and look how well we're doing now, and obviously next League of Ireland manager. So it's great. Like so it's gone the right direction, thankfully.
Yeah, I think the bit that still seems to be missing is getting the full value for players. Like you mentioned, PAOK. I think of Christos Chalas, who came off the bench for PAOK in that match, who ends up signing for Norwich for 10 million. And he's not even starting for PAOK in that game. Whereas, unfortunately, the money that's coming in for League of Ireland players is obviously a million miles away from that. In terms of the move to Scotland, like you're still a very young guy, as you say. You know, you're not going over at 16, but you're still an under 21 player, and you know you've been very honest, I think, over the last year about some of the difficulties in your personal life and that. Had you any concerns about moving away from home? And have you seen a sign that Motherwell is a good club for making you feel at home in Scotland? I know it's not a million miles away, but it's still it's a flight home, and it's in COVID times. It's not quite as easy as it once would have been.
No, look, for me, obviously, I didn't get the chance to go away when I was 16 or 17. Then I played at Bohs 17s, 19s, and then senior team. But so I always still, every little boy's dream was to become a professional footballer. So I was coming over excited, a new challenge, and getting to live my dream, and moving to a different country didn't really bother me, because my girlfriend and 2 kids are going to come soon enough anyway. So I'm settling in myself, and the lads are all great with me. So it's not much different to back home in terms of weather-wise and the lads and the crack. But no, for me, it's just living my dream, and I'm just excited to get going. So yeah.
Do you have Ireland ambitions now? Because I don't know, when Jamie McGrath went over, and I'm not putting Jamie down here, but I think people would have been surprised that he ended up being an Ireland regular, and a thoroughly justified Ireland regular. The position you're in maybe is, I'm not saying you're going to start for Ireland anytime soon, but it might be a little bit up for grabs in the near future in terms of the 10 position, or at least competition for places. What are your ambitions in that regard? Because you've done so well with the 21s as well, having scored last year.
Yes. Well, going to concentrate on Motherwell, to be perfectly honest with you, but meet up with the lads, hopefully, if I get in the squad for March. But no, look, I haven't even thought about seniors call up or anything like that. But I know that if I play well for a couple of years here, that chance might come around. And obviously, you can see with the manager we have now and Stephen that he give that chance to young lads, not afraid to give that chance. And like you can see that with Jason Knight and Almeida and Troy Parada and even Gav Bazuno and Andrew, like to name a few. Like a lot of lads that have played 21s last year are regulars now in the senior team. So like we know the opportunity is there.
Would you have got that sense, Ross, around the Ireland under-21 camp that there's a feeling there's not a big gap between that 21 squad and the senior squad now? Because, you know, you look at the more experienced 21s, the likes of Conor Coventry or Gavin Kilkenny, it doesn't feel as though they're a world away from the senior squad. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Gavin Kilkenny starting for the senior squad by the end of this year.
Obviously, Gav's doing brilliant at Bournemouth and the team is doing well. They look like they're going to get promoted to the Prem. So, in terms of that, like, you don't even have to just look at them, lads. Like, you just look at the 21s, that the amount of people that are actually starting first team in the Championship and League One. Like, yeah, Will Smallwell that was starting in the Prem. So, like, there's a lot of players in 21s, not even just Gav and Cov, that aren't a million miles away from the first team. But, like, I don't think I include myself in that if the likes of Troy and Jaso wasn't in the senior team, that we probably wouldn't get a call up to 21 Championship. So I think in the past that I don't think we had enough young lads in the first team that gave the 21s the chance to be that strong as it is now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we've Ev Ferguson on the bench for Brighton now, and like, he's in 21s and he'll be there for now a couple of years unless he goes straight to the first team, which wouldn't surprise me. But now, like, I enjoy being the lads every camp, and we have new players come in and they've all just done well. And we have a tight group, and yeah, it's just, hopefully I'm not really thinking about first senior call up, more thinking about Motherwell and the 18th against Ross County.
Yeah, that's probably important. You mentioned Evan Ferguson, one of the many players come through St. Kevin's. We have a photo here that you actually introduced to me, Ross, there around the time of the PFAI Awards. This is an absolute perler of a photo. Can you name? Well, obviously you can, because it's Danny Mandrew on the right. Who's on the left? Would you know, Nathan?
I can't even see the photo, Johnny, so I would most definitely be guessing.
Just say Ross Tierney.
Ross Tierney, looking good, Ross.
Yeah, Ross, you're small in stature compared to Big Dan.
I've always been small in stature, but I've always like, when I was playing back home with my brother, like, he wouldn't go easy on me, so I was always used to playing with bigger lads. So you could see that on the pitch, that with no fear. But yeah, look, it was great. I think that was after the AA Sports Cup when we played Cork. We beat them 2-0 or 2-1.
What age are you?
I was 18 at the time. I was about to do my leaving cert.
Yeah, if of all the League of Ireland players who may make that push into the senior squad, Mandrew must be right up there. I know it was highly controversial he wasn't in the PFAI Team of the Year, but in any event, you imagine it's a big year for him playing alongside Jack Byrne as well. Yeah,
well, how would you feel? Like, obviously I don't really worry about what's going on at Rovers, but like, their manager has a tough job in his hands, like, with the amount of failures he has. I wouldn't like that. But no, Danny's probably the best player I've played with, but his quality is just unbelievable. And you can just see when he's not feeling the things he does, you're just in awe of him. But yeah, I give him a few hits here and there, but he's a good lad.
Two good kids from Ballymun. Just finally, what are the aspirations for Motherwell? You're flying it in the table this season. What is the hope before the end of the campaign once you get into the team, hopefully?
Well, obviously I haven't been in long enough to talk with the lads or talk with the gaffer about my ambitions. But obviously my ambitions are just to get into the team. I'm obviously coming in January. We've only half season left, so hopefully I can just hit the ground running and team ambitions, like obviously we want to get Europe. Like I think we're doing well now, but yeah, I think we just we'd like to qualify for Europe and get a good run in the cup. So hopefully I can help the lads.
Celtic at home on the 6th of February is a nice little target.
It is obviously, like, I'm a big Celtic fan, as most Irish lads are, but I think my dad's more interested in the Celtic game than watching me do well. He hasn't stopped talking about that. He's like, it's not how you're getting on, Ross. Are you settling well? It's like, yeah, you have to get things for the Celtic game.
I can already envisage you giving Liam Scales a kick.
Scales is a good lad. I've got a few kicks off Scales in the derbies, but no.
Just to clarify before you go, our producer Tommy Rooney, in case there were any confusion, you were not 18 in that photo with Danny Mandrow. What age were you roughly in that photo? I hope it wasn't 18.
Oh, the little one?
Yeah.
I was talking about the one being Danny. Jesus, that one I would have been. I think that was the year Danny was gone to Brighton.
Wow.
So I think he went to when he was 17. I would have been about 13, 14.
That would make a little bit more sense because you look particularly fresh-faced for an 18-year-old. And I think for all about me trying to get into Barrett's back in the day, you weren't getting into any nightclubs looking like that anyway.
No, that was actually, it's mad to think that would have been 4 years later. That would have been only. Jesus, I grew up all right, didn't I?
You certainly did.
Danny's still a handsome man.
He's a handsome man and not afraid to show it off on Instagram either. But there's nothing wrong with that. Great to talk to you, Ross, and hope you're back on your feet very soon.
Perfect, thank you.
Nathan, I've been a massive fan of him for a while, but he's again just grown as a player.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how he gets on. And like Jamie McGrath's obviously an inspiration to all those players going over because, as you say, going to St. Mirren, not a really renowned club for providing international players. And you look at him now, if he's not in the Ireland starting 11, he's player 12 or 13 around the starting 11. So like it's a real good ambition for Ross to have over the next couple of years to try and make his way through. And obviously he's done a good job with the 21s already. So yeah, can't wait to see how he gets on over the next little while and how many of those Irish players, because he may not be the last to go over the next few weeks to Scotland. Definitely not, and I think there's a definitely renewed interest in the SPL in Ireland now with all these players going over and Jamie McGrath and obviously Conor Rowan at St. Mirren, and I don't know, Ross is one of these players. I know like everyone now they have the GPS data, so these kind of lazy number 10s can't get away with not doing that much running anymore, but Ross was just from another era anyway. He's pestering off the ball is a joy to behold. I think he's a manager's dream.